hear me at the back? Okay, cool. I'm not going to use the mic. Okay. So, my name is Mohammed Ismail Bukulia, and I am a chartered accountant. It feels really good to say that, but my CA journey has been anything but a clean audit. After matriculating as Dutch scholar at St. John's College in 2012, I found myself studying the CA stream at Wits, rather half-heartedly, because I was convinced that anything accounting was extremely uncool. Well, I got caught up in campus politics and street art and found myself at the forefront of Fees Must Fall, which culminated in my failing third year in spectacular fashion. Fees didn't fall, but my marks certainly did. And I actually failed all 4 subjects. I remember my parents asking me, what are you going to eat? Protest songs. And I didn't have any direction. It was definitely a low point, but the only way forward was up. I decided to give accounting a genuine try, and to my pleasant surprise, I actually really enjoyed it. I then served my articles at Deloitte, auditing financial services, where I learned an incredible amount. But the biggest lesson I learned was that I wanted more control over my own time. When I completed my articles at the end of 2020, I knew that I wanted to do my own thing. And that led me to the launch of my CA Hub. That's my proudly South African startup that creates software and streetwear for chartered accountants. We've got over 1,400 CAs who are also my CA Hub members making use of our software products. And I've personally sold over 400 merch shirts in the past year, which I'll show you soon. It's been a real roller coaster ride since we launched in April 2021. There's been some great highs and some hectic lows, but I wouldn't swap it for anything else. One of the themes of today's seminar is emerging career opportunities in accounting and finance. And as a CA, you can work in audit, finance, operations, tech, retail. The world is your oyster. As an entrepreneur, I'd like to share 2 non-technical tips with you. We've gotten pretty technical today. And they are so that you can chart your own path too. And they are specifically non-technical because you guys are in school. So you've got the technical stuff covered. This is what they didn't teach me in school. The first and most important point is to know yourself. Whilst I was in articles, I came across the concept of a values-based approach, and it totally changed my life. What this means is taking the time to identify your values, whatever they may be, and then making active choices to live your life in accordance with them. So how do you identify your values? A good way to start is sitting down and reflecting on your past experiences. What gives you drive? What makes you feel alive? When do you feel deprived? I remember the feeling in the pit of my stomach when I had to work overtime in articles. The partner would come in at 5 p.m. and announce we all working a late night. And it literally felt like I was watching the minutes of my life flowing through my hands. And by doing this exercise, reflecting on your values, for example, for me, I identified my most important values as freedom, independence, and creativity. Yours could be family, it could be wealth, it could be being famous. There's no judgment at all. It's entirely up to you. Therefore, in my case, pursuing a risky venture via entrepreneurship aligned perfectly with my values. And it actually gives me strength when the going gets tough because my foundation is rock solid. I am free and independent to make my own mistakes, which is what I wanted. It also really helps with decision making. So simply consider, out of the available options for your decision, which align with your values. If an option doesn't align, you can simply eliminate it, no matter how tempting it may be, because I know I'm going to be miserable if I choose that option, even if I end up winning. The takeaway from this is identify your values. Take the time to identify your values and chart your path accordingly. If you enjoy traveling, then maybe don't pursue a career path in law that limits your work scope to South Africa. If you value family, then maybe working 80-hour weeks to get promoted to an executive won't be worth it in the end. But if you value status, maybe it will. It's entirely up to you. The second tip I'd like to share is to lean into your different. The grammar is bad, but it's more snappy. It is a great time to go into accounting in South Africa. There's a genuine shortage of accountants in the US and in Europe with the pipeline of graduates. Companies in those countries are desperately looking overseas for accountants. And as you may know, the CASA designation from SAICA has been reinstated as the #1 CA brand in the world, which means CAs in SA are in demand globally. While that's fantastic news, it also means that the internal competition between CAs is bound to increase too. So how will you stand out? A lot of people tend to think that working harder than their peers or being technically proficient is enough to differentiate them. Those are just the table stakes. To add on to that, what AI and other digital solutions do best is reduce menial workloads and provide easier access to that technical information. So this is a losing strategy. What has worked for me has been to lean into what makes me different. So I've always enjoyed customizing my clothes. I used to paint my Converse All-Stars and my t-shirts with fabric paint when I was on campus, just for fun. When I was trying to think of creative marketing campaigns to grab attention and get my MyCA Hub brand out there, incorporating this aspect of myself by combining accounting with streetwear seemed so zany that it just might work. So I leaned into making fun accounting themed merch that accountants could identify with and want to be a part of, and it's been a hit. Sharing these merch shirts have led to incredible connections, relationships, and exposure I would have never imagined. By simply offering someone a shirt and suggesting we meet up for lunch, I managed to make connections with people I would have never dreamed of. That's the CEO of Pineapple, for example. The best part about it is that it emerged from a place of authenticity, which ties directly into my first point about living out your values. So the takeaway from this is use what makes you different to get what you want. Don't be afraid to wander into uncharted territory. I've been through so many flips and flops, you're gonna open up a sandal line. Find what makes you, you, and then use it to your advantage. Okay. It's tough to fit 4 years into 10 minutes, but I'd like to end off strong with some hopefully insightful parting words. When you're still studying, it's almost impossible to know or imagine how your life will look 5, 10, 15 years from now. If you told me 10 years ago, when I was toy-toying in front of the union buildings, that I would be thrilled to be a CA, and my entire business would orbit around chartered accountants, I would have asked you for a shot of whatever you were drinking. But having been through all of that myself, and sharing some of what made my story meaningful, I can definitely say that the journey is worth it. And you don't have to walk it alone. You don't have to do it yourself. You can learn from my mistakes. We can do this together. So thank you for your time. Let's connect. And together, I firmly believe we can make chartered accountants something new.
You know, Mohammed is actually being quite modest. What he actually forgot to mention was that he was one of the top 35, under 35 finalists for the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants in 2022. So I think we can give him a hand for that. Having said that, are there any questions for him?